Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming. Welcome to the panel on AI as Navigator. Before we jump into it, I want to let you know we're going to try to do something a little different on this panel to hopefully keep it interesting. It's been a long day and a half. I think people have seen lots of panels. And I've asked the panelists to try to have a conversation with each other. So I have a few prompts that I'm going to provide them, but I'm hoping that they will not be shy. These are not shy people in general, and that they will jump in and have sort of a broad conversation. And anyone in the audience who would like to jump in as well, I think we'll need a microphone to get you on the recording. We will save time at the end, but if you're interested to jump in and join the conversation, wave your hand for a microphone, and we'll make space for you. So just quickly, a brief introduction on the topic. In the past 6 to 8 months, AI tools have gained a number of advanced capabilities that really were not available to us even a year ago. If I think back to a year ago, the kinds of things that we were experimenting with these tools have now become standard features from the AI providers. So, 6 months ago, we were experimenting with chain of thought prompting, and now we have reasoning models that have those capabilities built into them. We were using things like function calling to process the results that came out of LLMs and perform actions. And now we have agents that are doing that for us. We had RAG and kind of manual prompt management and context management. And now we have MCP, skills, LLM facing documentation, all of these capabilities that have expanded the domain of use cases for AI beyond the kind of question and answer and search and summary that we've seen in the past, to things like actively helping people navigate and understand complex knowledge bases, to moving into deep analysis and even strategy and planning. And so the topic of this panel, we have a number of practitioners here who will introduce themselves in a moment, is to talk about how they're seeing these advanced capabilities being applied in their worlds. As I said, we're going to try to have this be an open conversation. So I'll prompt people, and if anyone here is slowing down, you can please throw in your own questions. And we'll go and we'll do quick introductions. Everyone's agreed to make them very quick. So I'll start it off with an example. My name is Jeff, and I am the Director of Social Impact at Sahaj, which is a boutique consultancy of about 200 people in the US, UK, and India. And we are an AI data science and software engineering consultancy. We build complex custom systems for our clients, both commercial and mission-driven. And my work with the impact sector is focused on mission-driven. I'm based in Portland, Oregon, US, and this is my first time back to Nairobi in probably a decade, which has been a lot of fun. So maybe we just quickly go down the line here, and everyone can do a similar quick introduction.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Chinazo Anebelundu, and for this panel discussion, I'll be representing Equalize AI. In an earlier panel session, I represented Data Science Nigeria, which is the parent organization of the startup called Equalize AI. At Equalize AI, we build speech and voice AI systems for African languages. What this means is that we collect local languages or African languages in low resource settings, whether as voice, as text, and then we use them to train models that can be integrated into solutions. And so our approach at Equalize AI is voice first and infrastructure aware lens when developing AI, because the context where we thrive is Nigeria, and then we have to deal with low connectivity and all those, low connectivity, absence of smart devices. And so our approach to building AI solution is simplifying it within the African reality. And that includes the language, the culture, the operational style, basically to reflect the everyday reality of people. And so that's our focus: curate and build this repository of African languages, build AI models, and deploy AI models within the infrastructure aware lens, of the African setting. And then, yeah, nice to be here.
Please, down the line.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Emmanuel Macau. I am the Senior Regional Technology and Data Manager at Masiko Agrifin. And what we do is we work with an ecosystem of partners around Africa, trying to support them to develop, design, test, and scale digital solutions, digital financial solutions that are targeting smallholder farmers. And I mean, the ecosystem is broad. So we have partnerships across ag startups, innovators, mobile operators, financial institutions. I think, part of now what, and especially for myself as well, what we are focusing on is looking at use cases for data and of course AI, and how do we, scale up some of the solutions that are out there, such as use of AI advisory, and of course we're not trying to take anyone's job like extension officers, but more like enhance what they're doing, and at scale, and that's actually what we are trying to achieve here with this new technology. Yeah, I think maybe let me leave it there for the broader compositions as we go along, and yeah, happy to be here. Thanks.
Good afternoon, everyone. Céline Duros, I'm Senior Director for Viamo, for Eastern, Southern Africa, and Asia. Viamo is operating in Sub-Saharan Africa and also in Asia. We are a voice-first company. So we are known for one of our flagship product, which is the Viamo platform, which comes in partnership with telcos. So see it as like a Google for people who are not connected to the internet. And some of the latest AI solution that we've been deploying for like the development sector, but not only, is our AI solution that doesn't require internet, so that we can support when it comes to like agri advisory, but also health. Like we are sector agnostic, so we actually support partners in different sectors. I'm glad to be here today.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Dixon Kanga. I am a co-founder and software engineer by background at Honor. We provide, we've been technical partners to INGOs, NGOs, pretty much anyone that's doing data collection using ODK Collect. We have a solution called Honor Data, and we also dabble in the health sector, as well as consulting around software development. I'll be mostly trying to represent the aspect of a software engineer in this world of AI from my perspective. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here after lunch. I'm Ajinkya Khod. I come from Pune, India. I'm a data science practitioner and a researcher. I work with search softwares along with Jeff. As a data scientist, what we as a team there do is help organizations to build their AI strategies, come up with the AI solutions. As a team of data scientists at Sahaj, the expertise that we have is from voice AI, building a knowledge basis on top of the multidimensional data that organization has, make it accessible for different use cases, automate their workflows. Yeah, that's more of it. And I'm here for next 2 days for any conversations, and happy to be here on the panel. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, everyone, for those introductions. Dixon, I'm hoping that you can kick things off because, as we know, engineers love building tools for themselves. So it's not that surprising to me that some of these advanced technologies have really emerged first within the area of software development. And so I'm wondering if you could talk a bit about how the kind of analytic and independent agent capabilities have changed the work of software engineers. And I know that you've also seen these kinds of capabilities starting to leak out from the software development world to other areas. And maybe you can talk about where you're seeing that as well.
Okay. Sorry, I forgot to mention I'm based here in Nairobi, Kenya. I think my perspective is maybe slightly different. AI seems, yes, as a tool for software engineers, but what has technically happened is that it has moved beyond that. It's no longer a tool for the data scientists. It's no longer a tool for software engineers only. It's a tool that is becoming relevant to each and every person that is working with it, which to a level of extent raises a number of different questions in terms of how people interact with AI. As a software engineer or a person that owns a company, the question comes, can I rewrite an entire code base? We've seen that happening. The other aspect, can you turn out more features? Like as a software engineer, you can develop more features and deliver quickly. Like there's a quick turnaround for those kind of elements. But at the same time, there's an element where you might need, as a software engineer, you might need to provide that guidance to people that are starting to use AI that don't have that software engineer background because they're trying to use and they're wondering why it's not answering the correct questions. And they need a little bit of guidance. We've also seen, to a lot of extent, being amazed by some of the partners where they're able to develop solution because they've been asking for this feature, and because it doesn't meet the criteria for product that you're providing them, they can go ahead and be able to build prototypes and be able to demonstrate why a use case is particularly necessary. Yeah. In terms of building, I think for me, that's one of the things that I am a bit curious. Like, is it changing in terms of how we need to build anymore? And I don't know, like from what Anjuki has been doing, I was wondering whether there's an element of like, is AI the new SDK, the new layer in which we build solutions on top of?
Yeah, thank you. And I'll well put that it's a different layer that has come up, which is for everyone for different use cases. With our experiments and the way we have developed solutions, what we have figured out is the best thing that is added to this technology, other than just generating text or images, is there's already a pre-built context for everyone. So even a carpenter want to use it, it knows already about what is carpenting. So earlier, when we want to build a tech solution, that context was always sort of missing or required, that you need a subject matter expert to build a tech solution, to understand the domain that the solution that you're trying to build with the technology. This technology is a bit different if you look at it, that it already knows the context from most of the domains in the world, and that gives you or accelerates the solutioning, and even tech building is a bit easier. So yeah, in terms of the software development as well, that what we have seen is maintaining the softwares and building them has become a bit easier. There is a lot of earlier where you might take months and months to add more features and capabilities, that now has been accelerated, and not necessarily by replacing humans or the software developer itself, but more of that the individual productivity of the software developers has been increased. And I think if you look around in your domain, then you can build the same analogy and think of the same, that it's not sort of replacing a human or a person doing the job. It's more of mostly accelerating the job and building the productivity and boosting the productivity. Yeah, so that's where I leave it.
So it does seem that one of the things that people talk about in the technical space is that the role has gone a little bit from building things to guiding the AI to build things. Um, I'm wondering, Emmanuel, in your work with all the partner organizations, have they started to be able to, in the same kind of way, use AI to, as directors almost, to enhance or improve their services? And just a twist, Ajinka was saying that a lot of context is already in the models, but you work in a very specialized domain, and I think you might disagree with that a bit.
Not really, actually. I wanted to support Ajikia actually on when you're building these solutions, and again, looking at at agriculture, and I think there's all this buzz about AI being used in agriculture, AI being used in so many other industries. Health is one of the others, and these are some critical sectors, especially, and they are heavily regulated as well. They also carry some high level risks. But there are ways to, use this technology, especially what Adike was saying, build it with context, build it in, or use them in terms of offering solutions that are actually making the lives of the farmers better, but not only the farmers, but the larger ecosystem. And I'll give an example. Kwamana is an organization or a startup that is based out of Nigeria. Now they're actually here in Kenya as well. And they built this AI market intelligence or market insights tool. First, it started with the insights tool where they went around collecting data about different markets and the actors who are in those markets, from the people who are selling the commodities to the managers or the controllers of the markets, and then it went on to collecting data about distribution, and it spinned off to now also collecting data about things like weather patterns. And why did they do that? This information is actually used to determine if a certain area where a certain commodity comes from, say like Nyandarua, where there's potato production, if it rains heavily and the roads are blocked, it's going to be an issue of distribution. That might shoot up the price of potatoes. And there are other actors who would want to know how that effect or that challenge or disruption can cause a rise in market prices, for example. For the farmer, on the other hand, they would want to see if there's oversupply in certain markets, either in their location or there are other markets which are better. And how do they actually make sure that their produce can get to a certain area? So these are some of the use cases that are there, but there are some challenges that come up where collecting that data is an issue. Is actually not an issue, but a big challenge where Comana as an innovator or as a startup, they need funding to be able to go around and collect this information and digitize some of this market. There are other use cases such as credit scoring, for example, and that's usually a very interesting topic. It can be tricky. Some policies like the EU AI data does not, EU AI policy does not consider credit scoring or considers credit scoring as a high risk area because of a lot of biases that can come up because of AI hallucinating and doing so many other things. However, when you use data that you collect from, say, a cooperative, and mostly we've known that farmer data is, farmers are actually invisible to financial institutions. So you are not able to give them credit because you don't have credit history, you don't have data, you don't know what their value chains are. But if you go to a cooperative, cooperatives collect a lot of farmer data. profile them. When you look at some of these solutions, I think it's obviously context dependent. There are use cases, but we have to think about the dangers of it as well. There's regulations, and I think regulations are there to help us not they're here actually. They're supposed to help us innovate. And I think that's how I'd want to look at that part. If there are government people here, I don't want to attack anyone. The government is supposed to help innovators innovate and not curtail that, but we need to do it in a more ethical way. Actually, I was just thinking about what Adikia was saying, and I was trying to type it here. I was wondering, when you're thinking about context, especially now from the work that you've done, how do you actually make sure that that you're actually building your AI with context in mind, especially from the work you've done? I think you've done some work with in the US and in India. How do you actually make sure that context is within the place where, or the organization or country, or even localization of your AI? And probably for Celine here, when you're also looking at data, at your advisory information, how do you make sure that there's also context built in there?
Thank you, Emmanuel. Yeah, context is key. I mean, I would say we don't see ourselves as like the context specialist or the content specialist. We are the technology layer when we actually build solution for our partners. So I'll take an example of an HPV line that we have in Pakistan. And the goal is we're not here to actually encourage people with this hotline to go and get the vaccination, although that's from a public health perspective, that's the one of the main goal. What we want is to give them information that they can trust so that they can actually make that decision themselves. And that has proven to be actually pretty successful. And the context and the content, we really bring ministers, we bring experts, and we don't just bring them during the setup phase, because we understand that AI is the AI solution that we build is refined over time, and they're quite intelligent because they become better over time. We've seen accuracy that has increased by 10 points between the setup to today, for instance. We've also seen from a cultural perspective, it's close to 100%. And that's all of the investment that we've done with the local partners and making sure that the subject matters come back and do every month or every 2 months, they do an analysis on the accuracy, they do an analysis on the safety, so that we can also adjust those safeguards, because that's another topic which is related.
Celine, that's an interesting example, the HPV line. In the past, pre-generative AI, pre-NLP, that would have been approached as probably a public health, push outbound messaging campaign. How does the helpline operate differently? And how does Gen AI produce a different experience that's allowing people to come to the conclusions themselves?
Yeah, one of the main difference, is people are going to be calling and getting asking any question. I was looking at the question last night. It was like, my son is 14 years old. Do I need to vaccinate him? If yes, why? And same for like different genders, different age. And what we've seen is like the empathy. Well, that's super interesting that you're interested in that topics. Those are the risks associated to HPV. If you don't actually get the vaccination, this is what could happen. Do you have any other question? And on average, we've seen that people are asking 4 to 5 questions. The early results show that it's actually the same level of interaction, or how we equip people to make the decision, as if they were talking to a human helpline, which is it's early result. They're going to be actually fully disclosed, and the final results are going to be exposed at SBC in Panama in June. But that's super positive for us to see that we can get to the level of human interaction. That's because that had to be proven, right? It's not because the tool is there that it's going to do the job. And that's one thing. Did I answer the full question?
Yeah, thank you. Well, Chinazo, somewhat related, Equalize AI is focused on NLP and African languages. And in the context that you work in, how are you bringing these advanced capabilities? How are you making sure that they are accessible to the communities that you're focused on?
So at Equalize AI, we are very big on language, accessibility, voice first, infrastructure aware. When we build, what the advancement in agentic AI has done for us is that it has challenged us, it has pushed us to our creative boundaries because we understand the context within which we are working. And then when we think about the localization as not just a language problem, but also a cultural problem, operational problem, governance problem that needs to be solved with agentic AI. And so we understand the socioeconomic problem that is existing on one hand, and then on the other hand, we have this imported intelligence, so to say, the global AI model, which was built for smart or stable internet, built for global majority language, built for high-end smartphone users, built for people who are digitally mature. And then we're trying to use that, customize it, localize it to solve these existing socioeconomic problems. And so what happens is we learn just like the AI model. As the AI model is learning, we also learning and fine-tuning. Initially, our approach was text-based. When the whole hype about language, we said, okay, let's make it available in indigenous languages. And then we also saw that in making it available in text or in chat, this target population we're not still able to type because you need some level of literacy to type even your local language. And so the idea of voice came about because really these communities already exist and have a way of doing their things. They've been doing businesses, they've been farming, they've been receiving health services, although not so efficient. Why don't we mimic what they're already doing? So it's more like saying making the AI. Instead of making the community adapt to AI, why don't we make AI adapt to the way the community already lives, their reality? And so with agentic AI, it makes it easy when it's voice first, when it can operate in low bandwidth settings, when it can, it can be accessible with feature phones or low-end devices, and they can still receive those services. So essentially, for us, she said they are not context experts. I would say we are context experts because we've learned so much, on this journey to know that it is beyond just making language available. We're also building that ecosystem of language, whether it's local data sets, whether it's local researchers, whether it's community validation, whether it's government inclusion, because this whole, the whole ecosystem makes that localization work. It makes it more operational. And so given that context, we're not stopping at language. We are looking at what's the cultural efficiency. If it must reflect how they've been living before we brought in this AI for them. And so it can achieve two things. It can achieve efficiency in the way they work, and it can also reflect their daily reality.
Thank you. Ajinki, I have a question for you, and then I want to bring the whole panel to a new topic after that. But I know you worked on a project that used AI in a pretty interesting way, in that The intent was to guide people through a particular analytic process and develop a strategy and a plan out of it, but not give them answers. So it wasn't trying to make decisions for them. Could you talk a little bit about both how that was implemented and what the challenges you had in keeping the AI from, as some of these models tend to do, trying to claim to be the expert in everything and leaving space for the humans?
Yeah, definitely. That was pretty interesting. So the ask, if you look at it, is to give an answer, but also as Jeff said, right, not also give an answer which is very opinionated. So the subject matter experts in any domain, if you give a straight up answer without much of a context, or there is no built up toward the answer, that might feel like it's just overconfident AI, just saying that a Boolean answer, yes or no, where it is coming from and how it is. And it sometimes also comes in a way or step on a toes of a subject matter expert itself, right? That person should make a call because that person has a more context of what the problem is and what sort of data they're dealing with. So in such a with such constraints which are so realistic, and it always been there with any conversational assistant that we have built, that you'll have to some way use AI in a way that it doesn't turn out to be super confident about anything, and then the user lose the trust in it, and there is no reasoning behind it. So the project that we work on, one of the problem statement. Let me talk about a 1 minute for a problem that we are dealing with. Uh, we had sort of 600, 700 odd documents, or you can see a pages on a website which has a structured and unstructured data. And there are the other data sources. You can imagine a table that from you need to get data to answer that. So now those are two different data sources, and what we're dealing with much complex. So there are 4 or 5 different resources. To answer fully a query, you need to get the data from all the sources and base your answers on top of it. And also it brings down to the question that Emmanuel also asked, right? That how do you add the context where itself that we talked about earlier, that LLM also can itself work as a subject matter expert in most of the domains. So what we did there is, in terms of designing a solution, uh, which is pretty interesting, right? That the LLM itself can answer all the questions, but what we wanted to do while building a solution is only use LLM uh, as a technology which understand languages, and while understanding languages, it has learned how to reason, how to think, how to slice and dice the data, uh, which is a quality of any human, right? And intelligence is that's what the intelligence is. So we only use the intelligence of the LLM and not the subject matter expertise of the LLM. If that makes sense. And the subject matter expertise, what that needs is a data which is relevant to a query. So in developing a solution, we only relied on LLM to use that part of the capability of LLM, that it understands, it can reason, it can think harder, it can come up with the ideas, but the content or the subject matters, that comes from the data set that I talked about. And that's the one thing that we always principally thought through while developing a solution, and that really helped. Uh, the second one was, next step is how do you actually uh, give a response with that much context that you already gathered. So even nowadays, everybody has must use a chat GPT, and what they are doing is the similar thing, that they will give a reference to what the information is came from, some external links, some documents that you might have uploaded, all of it. So we tried to do similar-ish, but more precise, because that system is designed by us. And I won't get into the solutions, how we get there, but at the second, that every response is grounded to few documents, through few data tables that we have bought data from. So that builds trust. And the third part is the tonality and the granularity of the response. So what I mean is, there could be a user who is using your platform for the first time, and in terms of proficiency, that of whatever the domain is, let's say healthcare, that person is very new to it, and it doesn't know about the domain that much. So what we tried is, can you build a profile of user either through the information of the user that you already have in a system, or the second way, which was more intuitive, is based on its conversations earlier with your system or the kind of queries that they have been asking to the system, you can actually try to come up with or gauge the proficiency of that user. So you use the proficiency to detail out your answers, your as in the AI system's answers, uh, and that adds a flavor of customization. That some user might be very proficient, already maybe a PhD holder in that domain. That doesn't require a lot of education and lot of granular information, but the other user might not need that. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. That, just to summarize, making sure that the system doesn't turn out to be very confident, and also maybe stepping on not being assistant and more of being a decision maker. How do you separate it out was sort of a challenge that in a journey that we understood. And these are the couple of things in terms of solutioning and designing the system that we innovated in a sense.
Well, thank you. That leads me into sort of the next general topic. I'm sorry, Dixon, did you have something you wanted to say?
No, I was just wondering whether, because one thing I'm realizing, and I'm learning a lot from this panel, but there's an aspect where anyone that's walking the AI journey comes from a different environment. They're observing different things in that kind of way. It's very interesting to say that you're building a solution, and the solution should be, someone should be curious enough to ask questions, and then you're only answering what's relevant in what they're asking and not necessarily providing answers. Like for me, that's being very interesting. And it also seems like there's more opportunities around that. But then I feel like I'm in the world where things seem to be burning down. And I don't know, we miss that particular aspect. I don't know whether that's the same element you observe. Because we're having people that are not necessarily technical trying to use it. Like my sister has been using AI, and one of the things that she's been finding and nice about it is that it's able to automate some of that particular aspect. But some of the things that are frustrating is that she has to keep repeating, keep changing aspects of it so that it can be much more element around that. You also have that aspect of where we have people that are feeling confident that AI is doing everything. Then I don't need more human in the loop kind of entrepreneurs in that kind of space, which perhaps has its own risk. I'm wondering whether those are things that are being encountered. What are those kind of challenges that are coming in? And it is there's yes, a lot more hope from this conversation, but that hope doesn't. I don't know whether there's a lot more around that for people that don't know.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, that leads right into the general area I wanted to get to, which is what are the risks that you need to mitigate with these tools, and what kind of investments do you need to put in to make them effective? So you're talking about sort of some frustration that your sister sees in it. Ajink is talking about investment that went into this tool. He talked very abstractly, but it's specifically to help government officials develop poverty alleviation policies. So they need to develop the policies based on evidence, but they need to make the decisions. So you had to put effort in beyond the raw tools to have this system guide them but not answer for them. Chinazo, you're talking about the effort to make not just language but culturally sensitive systems. I assume we haven't talked about it, Celine, but in that sensitive area of HPV immunization, I imagine there's effort to make sure that the responses were safe and salient. And so I'm wondering what thoughts the panel has on, let's have our eyes open. This is a cool technology, but nothing is for free. What are the risks? How do you mitigate them? What kind of investments do you need to put into making these tools effective and safe?
Well, okay, yeah. Okay. I think when you start thinking about the example of agentic AI and advisory, the way different organizations have been, making sure that their content, or for the case of Celine here with Viamo, where you're giving out information to different categories of users. I think Viamo has been doing health and agriculture, if I'm not wrong, in different countries. But when you're sending out information, you have to have it validated by an authority. And I'll give examples for here in Kenya, maybe even in Ethiopia. In Kenya, there's Kenya Agricultural Livestock Research Organization that is mandated by the government to do research on agriculture and livestock. And they've developed a lot of information, content, fact sheets. Some of it has been, converted into IVR and SMS content. Because the research and the information has come from a validated or an institution that is government-led, the farmer is, they're getting the right information from the right source. But now when you turn it into a digital, and then now you convert it to AI, you need to have that human in the loop. I think that's what Dixon has just mentioned here. And I'm also now looking back at when we start using agentic AI, from the fact that an extension officer, who's a real person, goes to meet a farmer, and the farmer believes this person because they've been working with them for maybe years, a long time. It's a human being. There's some element of trust and all that. But now you're changing that also and you're taking it to using technology and digitizing that process. The farmer needs to be able to trust that the AI or the agency is able to actually give you the correct information. And so there has to be a human element involved there to actually fact check, to actually see that whatever information is being given out is validated and it's contextual. The Ethiopian ATI, I think maybe you guys have worked with them before, they actually have a department that actually just does validation of their information. Whether it passes through AI, whether it passes through a mobile operator, that content has to be validated. It has to be proved. It has to be fact-checked. And then, again, it's not just about national policies. It's also what ethics are we building, or how are we putting ethics into what we're building, especially on this new technology.
Yeah, thank you, Emmanuel. Something I want to jump on, it's what we've seen is that trust is not only just giving the right answer. It's really the pace, the accent, the empathy that you're going to show, how you respond. So that's quite, you can have the right answer, which is a must. It's not negotiable, especially when you're talking about a sensitive topic. But we have one of our solutions that is Ask Viamo Anything, which essentially is plugged to the internet, right? Whether it's OpenAI, Gemini, you name it. So people ask questions, and what we've seen is that to see if it's a trustworthy tool, they're just going to ask a question, they know the answer. What's the capital of Zambia? Then if it's right, then let me ask another question. And once they get some confirmation, okay, I think I can trust this tool, then that's where they start go and ask a lot of questions. Which one of the findings is that it's not topic specific. You have a farmer that is going to ask about a farming practice, and then about relationship, and then religion, and we've seen. One of our main goal has been really how do we get that repeat usage, because that's how we prove really that it shows value. So yeah, the quality of the information, the curation of it, but also all the experience that we give the user is key.
Just wondering,
Okay.
when you're saying that you ask a question that is you know the answer to, which to a level extent is one of the recommendations. Like if you're using AI and you're not necessarily you're a domain expert in that question, then you're able to tell that. But we're also seeing that the AI is also capable of being able to sound very confident. Question is how does a farmer differentiate that? Or I don't know if there are any checks around that, but yeah.
Yeah. So for us, I think the mitigating the risk has to include a lot of actors in the system. So we have the domain experts, we have the linguists. For example, what we do for every local language we want to train the model on, we have linguists validate it. Because for some of our languages, or for a lot of our languages, you see one word having different meanings. And so we need that expert to check the tonation marks. I don't know if that's applicable to a lot of people. You know, our languages in text come with tonation marks so that with different tonation marks, you know what it means. And so that layer of linguistic validation is very, very critical. And then the domain expertise, I mean, especially if it has to do with health, if it has to do with education. So we have these domain experts who also check the data corpora that is being trained on to ensure that it captures the ethics and standard of that domain. And then there's also this layer of, you know, he mentioned something about the intelligence, the intelligence layer that the model has, and then you bench on that to you know, to expose it to other data sources. And that's also what led us to moving into voice first, because the model can misunderstand your intent if you don't type it the way you mean it. So me, for example, sometimes when I use ChatGPT, I give it a prompt and it gives me a response. I'm like, damn it, this is not what I was expecting. This is not the answer I'm looking for. And then I go back to my prompt. I'm seeing that maybe it's understood it, maybe because the way I speak English, you know, there's what we call Nigerian English. It may not be the correct way of speaking English, but I meant a different thing. But that risk can be eliminated if I'm saying it. I can give examples. It's convenient for me to just explain the prompt in voice and say, this is what I want. I need to understand it. So having it as a voice first is what we've learned reduces that risk to a very good extent because you can express exactly what you mean. And then the other layer is in deployment, we do it in bits. You know, we pilot in small bits so that if there are still further risks, we can catch them early, we can fix them. And then when we are deploying, we get all the stakeholders involved, we get government, we get the actual users who are intended to use it. You know, we simulate the real world scenario when we are piloting it in bits. And then whatever feedback or errors or risk, we get that and then we fix it and then we pilot over and over again before we actually deploy for, you know, production.
Right. Well, I'm hearing that despite what the massive technology companies might tell us, there's actually there's a lot of potential, but there's still work to do. It still takes design and effort and a lot of contextual knowledge even to deploy an effective system. We have about 10 minutes, so I want to see if there are any questions or any thoughts from the audience. If there's anyone here who has been deploying any of these advanced technologies, we'd love to hear your stories, how you've done it, what sort of success or challenges you found. Is there anyone who'd like to add something? Yes. Sure.
Hi, thanks everyone. Great panel. Actually, we have also been deploying some AI-powered decision-making support tools to some success. I think my comment or my concern or my question is a worry that has been developing recently in our team, and this might be shared by others who are developing similar tools, is to what extent this will be a meaningful thing to be doing in the next 2 or 3 years, because of the concern that big companies that are developing LLMs might advance the technology to such an extent that these tools that are built on top of existing LLMs might not be necessary. Or a different kind of threat that is, well, it's not really a threat, but a different kind of phenomenon, which humans in general, individuals in general, will acquire enough ability to work with readily available chatbots like ChatGPT, that they'll be able to develop their own tools like the ones we're developing right now, over a 1-hour conversation, right? So these are two things that are making us worry on if it's even worth people in the development sector making that AI transition, or if we should just wait 2 or 3 years and they'll be available, or any individual without any technical background or development background will be able to do it themselves. And it feels like we're kind of close to both of those scenarios happening at once, actually. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on that. Thanks.
Yeah. I wanted to start on that particular because I'm from Kenya. Every time I see these big conferences, big tech, when they talk about the US, software engineer, the US, something like that. I think it's very, 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 I think it's still very, very important for everyone to be involved in understanding, in utilizing it. Yes, it can get overwritten. That's going to happen one way or another, but does not mean that we stay put. But through that process, we are at an opportune time where you can develop things that can be cutting edge, that can define what that aspect looks like. So if you have time to wait, then that's okay. But if you don't have, I think it's important for people to innovate, to understand, to utilize these tools to the best that they can understand. And also to balance between using what you subscribe for versus what is available that you can download and run on your own machines or even use on devices. We work in people that want to operate offline. If you have LLMs you can be able to train LLMs that will operate offline, that's going to be ideal, still relevant, even down the road. But yeah.
Yeah, so I think the concern is very valid when you look at how fast AI has been evolving. But at the same time, we are humans. It's a natural order that we invent. We invent things. So what I think a very critical element, or what we actually even do as a critical element, is to have capacity building embedded into whatever solution we are developing. So for the end users, we are teaching them how to use it. And so if there is a new evolution of AI or a new way of doing it, we simply integrate, just like we didn't, before we had technology, and then we had technology, and then we had it in different forms. But we've been adapting, we've been building, we've been learning. So for us, we always document and build capacity alongside the solution. And with that element of capacity building, it's anyone, we can adjust or adapt like we've done in the past. We've had a case where we built a solution as a chat interface. Then voice was not even famous or was not even rampant. And we saw that chatbot had a very low adoption. And then as soon as the whole conversation around voice AI came about, we integrated voice into it. We're actually building that aspect. And so that's how we keep adjusting as the technology evolves. And then your second concern about people building, there's a limitation. People will always build, but when you look at the infrastructure that is needed to scale, you see that as a limitation. Currently, people build for for individual usage or whatever the case may be. We can't really restrict them. But then when you talk about scaling it or sustaining it or building for the whole conversation around digital public infrastructure, where a whole lot of community, a whole lot more people are going to use it, then that fear may not really work because you need the funding, you need the infrastructure set up to actually build for scale.
Just can I add on that, Jeff?
I have the mic, so okay. Just a quick one. Data Science Nigeria. So I just need some clarity. You spoke about the voice aspects, and I know in the AI world, one of the difficult areas for us to work on is voice, right? Especially automated speech recognition, which requires some level of work before you can meet the word error rates, i.e. the accuracy. And you mentioned in relation to how easier it becomes for the AI to respond. So I just want to find out, dealing with low resource languages on the average, based on the languages that you have, what is the word error rates in terms of what you have at your end in terms of the languages that you are dealing with, because that also translates in terms of the accuracy of the AI in terms of responding to it, because you are moving from one layer to the other, right? From automated speech recognition to natural language processing, which obviously goes through a number of channels. So I'm a bit curious because we're working in those areas. So I'm a bit curious in terms of how accurate that is. I mean, moving from text to voice. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for that important question. So for us, it fluctuates. It depends on the data set we are working with, but we always have a goal of what error rate we are pursuing for each one. For example, we are currently training an ASR model on a family planning that's supposed to deliver that maternal services to women. It's not doing so well currently because it still needs to learn the terms, and especially for a particular language, the terms they use, the slangs or the street language they use is still, is still able to learn how not to omit those things. So it fluctuates. So I can't give you a number per se, but we always want that word error rate to be low as possible. And so we keep, working on it. And so for just like you mentioned, the three layers, the speech recognition, the intelligence layer, and then the CTS. So for our intelligence layer, we have a very, do I say, a satisfactory model that has the level of intelligence, that understands code switching, that understands context when things are said, and is able to, move between the language to the intelligence that is needed and to output the accurate information. But like I said, it depends on the use case for us. It depends on the use case. When we move from health to education to public service to agriculture, it varies. But we always have a target, essentially, to keep the error as low as possible.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. I just want to add a comment on top of his question, so if it's allowed. So I think his concern is about big firms swallowing small startups that are doing new or novel ideas, them trying to build the idea because they have the infrastructure and the data. So I think another way to look at it is the mindset. So we realize that technology is evolving very fast. So as a builder, you have to be very, very fast. And also, when you get to that bridge, I think one thing to look out for is growth and opportunity. So we cannot say we are not going to build because bigger guys are going to come swallow it up. But whenever we move, we should be looking out for growth and opportunities. There's always going to be gap because they are not close to the people. We are, and then when we see the opportunity, we can harness it.
I think, just go. I think those are valid worries and concerns. And I think when technology starts, obviously has been advancing over time. When I was in campus back, I think, I don't even want to say that. You might, yeah, but those days, technology used to advance after every, 7 years. And then the mobile technology came in, and suddenly it reduced that time to 5 years. And then suddenly, every year, every mobile operator or every OEM or mobile manufacturer is now, coming up with a new device, a flagship device after, 6 months to a year. So that is how fast we're moving. And now we are in the age of AI. That was a conversation that started in the 1940s. And it has come and gone and come and gone. And now we're here. And we are now talking about what you are referring to, advanced AI, where now we might not even need to, rely on other human beings for some things. But what I believe in is technology is there to help us and enable us, and maybe advance some of our thinking, some of the ways we do things. Even when we talk about agriculture, it's not going to really replace. It's about thinking about how to use technology to be more efficient, but also now moving that the next level where you're also trying to solve difficult problems in a shorter period of time. And that's how you're supposed to be. That's how I look at technology, and it applies to AI as well. There's some components that obviously AI will not be able to take over. Human intuition, thinking. Years and things like that. So I think
quickly before we go, I just want to thank the panel, Chinazo, Emmanuel, Celine, Dixon, Ajinkya. Thank you for taking your time.